Hello my friends, today I wanted to make a follow-up to my last video, which was the Doomslayer vs Emperor video. I wanted to make this to sort of iron out the flaws in that video, and to especially address the criticism I got. So that's what we're doing here. All the criticism mainly focuses on the fight itself. I'm pretty sure I got all of the facts about the characters right, so I won't be talking about anything other than the fight or the explanation after the fight. If you haven't seen the last video, don't worry, I have the fight scene here, I'm gonna play it, but I have a timestamp on here in case you've already seen it and you don't want to watch it. Although I would recommend going back and watching the last video if you haven't, because it would be pretty cool if you watched it. Anyways, let's move on. The fight would begin by both of them standing their ground and staring deeply at each other. The Emperor would first offer a sort of alliance or a friendship with the Doomslayer, as he would see the Doomslayer sort of like how he sees his Primarchs, as a tool for war. The Doomslayer would not take this, as the Doomslayer would see the Emperor as what he is, an evil dictator who rules through violence and fear that murders innocent people. The Doomslayer would not accept this alliance, and thus the battle would start. The Doomslayer would immediately try to take out his super shotgun and shoot the Emperor. The Emperor, being as fast as the speed of sound, would dodge it and try and close the distance between him and the Slayer. Aside from his Psyker abilities, the Doomslayer does not have any ranged weapons, so of course he's going to want to get as close as he can to the Doomslayer. The diversity of the Doomslayer's arsenal is not going to help him here, as the Emperor is going to be really up close to him most of the fight, so he's probably going to be limited to only his close range weapons, like the super shotgun, the combat shotgun, the Unmaker, weapons like that. The Doomslayer would eventually just stop using guns altogether and switch to the Crucible, as the Emperor is going to be conjuring a lot of psychic magic like lightning, lasers, fireballs, flamethrowers during the fight, while using his lightning claw and his sword. The Doomslayer would find it really overwhelming and will just try to focus on melee combat. The Doomslayer would be so completely and utterly overwhelmed with the Emperor's strength, as the Emperor is much larger than he is, has weapons that are far bigger and far more powerful than what he has, and on top of that he has his psychic magic like lightning, as I stated earlier, that the Doomslayer would have to dodge and weave against. This, with the Emperor's speed, it would just prove way too much for the Doomslayer to handle. The Doomslayer at some point during the fight would start noticing a pain in his chest, a sort of piercing but also flaming hot pain. He'll look down to look at what's happened, and he'll notice the Emperor's flaming sword gouged deep into his chest. He'll then look up, and then the Emperor will stare deeply into his eyes and obliterate his soul. The Emperor of Mankind wins. Okay, so the immediate problem. The immediate problem is I made the Emperor's victory sound a lot easier than it actually would be. Another mistake I made was when the Doomslayer got stabbed by the Emperor in the chest with his sword. I made it sound like the Doomslayer would just accept it, but realistically the Doomslayer would try to like grab the Emperor's throat or something. He wouldn't just give up like that, and he'd still try and attack even though he was stabbed, so that was a mistake on my part. Another big mistake I made was in the explanation in the aftermath. I said that maybe the Doomslayer could injure the Emperor. That was completely wrong. The Doomslayer would 100% manage to injure the Emperor. One shot from his shotgun, even if he managed to hit one, it would probably do a good amount of damage to the Emperor. So that's a big mistake on my part. I apologize. Now we're going to look at the comments. So I had a lot of comments talking about the Doomslayer's speed, saying his speed is immeasurable, he's faster than the speed of sound, stuff like that. But unfortunately, when you look at the cutscenes in the actual games, it doesn't show that. Look at this cutscene in Doom Eternal and in Doom the Dark Ages. We see him sprinting, or at least running, but he isn't going that fast. In fact, he's going very slow, all things considered. There's no reason why he would slow down in these scenes. So either the cutscene has an inaccurate depiction of the Doomslayer's speed, or that's actually how fast the Doomslayer really is. And we know that's not how fast he is. We know he's a lot faster, but unfortunately these scenes are still in the game, making his speed canon. That's why I gave him 100 miles per hour, because it made it the most sense, all things considered. And whenever I look up the Emperor's speed on Google, I always get supersonic, which is the speed of sound, so take that as you will. Now let's talk about Davoth. I have a lot to say about Davoth, so let's get into it. People bring up Davoth a lot when it comes to how strong the Doomslayer actually is, as he created the entire Doom multiverse, and the Doomslayer killed him. But the problem with that is that when we fight him in a weakened state. Notice how he uses a mech to fight. You'd think that a god who created the entire multiverse would not need technology in order to fight. You'd think he'd use a lot of straight up magic. Most of his attacks are just him throwing his sword around and shooting physical fucking grenades at us. Yeah, he does summon spirit demons in his fight, but generally he doesn't use much, if any, actual magic attacks. And that, I think, shows a clear sign that he is not, like, as powerful as he was before as he is in his fight with him. Davoth is still a god in his fight with the Slayer, but he's more of the type of god that Kratos is, as in a physical god that is not self-reliant and that has to rely on stuff in the world opposed to relying on himself and his own abilities. The last comment I'm covering is from Ash, whom is a regular on this channel, so it's great to see him comment and give me his opinions and his ideas on how the fight would actually go. So it's great to see you, bro. Basically, he says that if the Doomslayer entered the Warp, he would be completely overpowered due to the strength of the Warp and the Warp amplifying his strength. The problem with that is that, well, from what I understand, the Warp only amplifies Psychers, and the Doomslayer, as I said in the last video, doesn't use magic, so I don't think he would be considered a Psyker in the 40k universe, so I don't think the Warp would really do that much to him. It might amplify his strength, but I can't imagine it by that much. Okay, so I'm gonna do the fight again, but this time with all the new stuff I have added and the new information we have. The Emperor, his custodies, and his fleet of space marines show up at Argent D'nur in preparation to purge the Xenos being the Night Sentinels. However, the Xenos are not his priority. His priority is a man, a human being whom he's heard of through the whispers of the Warp and whom he wants to recruit into his armies. This man is a demon killer, a man with power so raw, so untamed, so savage, it could beat all of his Primarchs, and could possibly rival him. The Emperor needs this man on his side. They first come in contact and they stare down each other. The Doomslayer and the Emperor of Mankind. The Emperor would be like how he was with Sanguinius. He would be diplomatic, civil, and would not resort to violence, at least not immediately. He would attempt to recruit the Doomslayer into the Imperium. However, the Doomslayer would not take it, as the Doomslayer is brothers with the Night Sentinels, and the Night Sentinels are considered Xenos and are being purged by the Imperium. And also because the Doomslayer has heard of the atrocities committed by the Emperor across the galaxy. The Doomslayer would see the Emperor as selfish and evil, and the battle would begin. The Doomslayer would immediately try to take out his super shotgun and shoot the Emperor. The Emperor would dodge, take out his weapons, and begin closing the distance between him and the Slayer. The Slayer would manage to get a few shots in during the fight, and they would be pretty devastating. The Emperor would attempt to slice and slash the Doomslayer with his Fire Sword and Lightning Claw, along with summoning Psyker abilities like Fire and Lightning using the power of the Warp. The Slayer would be very overwhelmed with this fight, as he has to dodge both magic, a Fire Sword, and a Lightning Claw, while both reloading and keeping a safe distance, as the Emperor is both larger than him and has weapons that are probably as big as he is. This would prove a bit too much for the Doomslayer, as there will get a point in the fight where the Emperor will get an opening and manage to stab him clean through the chest, hoist him up in the air, and attempt to obliterate his soul. The Doomslayer, however, still alive, takes up his super shotgun and shoots the Emperor right in the eyes, temporarily blinding him. With this new opening, the Slayer will go absolutely fucking raw on the Emperor, and he will show zero mercy. By this point, they're both bruised, they're both battered, and they're still fighting. The Emperor would be pissed off. He would not be happy, but I don't think he would call his custodies to butt in the fight. At least not just yet, as he didn't call upon them in the Horus fight, so I don't think he'd call them in this fight. The Slayer managed to injure the Emperor pretty badly. He's still not out of it though, but the playing field has been leveled a little bit, and the Slayer will have a much easier time from now on. Now, there's two ultimate outcomes for the fight. The first one being, if they continue to fight on Argent D'nur and stay in real space, the Doomslayer would eventually get the upper hand, and the winner would be the Doomslayer. The second outcome would be if the Emperor tried to force the Doomslayer into the Immaterium, into the Warp, so we can fight him there. In the Immaterium, the Emperor would drink from the Warp, ascend to the Dark King, and he would beat the Doomslayer. The winner, the Emperor of Mankind. So, as I said, the victor is really going to depend on if the Emperor drinks from the Warp or not. Another way the Emperor could win is if he gets his Custodes or Primarchs to help him fight the Slayer, but that's very dishonorable, and I don't know if the Emperor would go through with it. I don't see him not doing it, but I can also see a world where he doesn't go through with that. Another possibility is for the fight to just go on literally forever, as the Emperor is a perpetual and cannot actually die. And the Slayer, the only way to kill the Slayer is by obliterating his soul, and the Slayer will just never give him an opportunity to do that. So another possibility is very well that the fight could just go on forever. So yeah, that's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I put a lot of hours into this video, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. Anyways, I hope I did better on this video than the last one. The last one, it's almost hard to watch now because it's just so stupid how I made it sound like the Doomslayer would just accept being stabbed and wouldn't like retaliate. So I hope this video I hope I righted my wrong, or righted my wrong, whatever the proper grammar is. I hope I did better than the last video. So yeah, next video is probably gonna be a Halo Wars review. I really wanna go through the entire Halo franchise and review all the Halo games, as I've been like really into Halo as of late, and Halo is something that I played in my childhood and I love Halo, so that's probably what I'm gonna do next. So yeah, yeah, that's the end of it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.